presidential election in America since and including George Washington has been won by the candidate with the most British and French royal genes. Of the 42 presidents up to Bill Clinton, 33 have been related to two people: Alfred the Great, King of England, and Charlemagne, the most famous monarch of France. And so it goes. 19 of the presidents are related to England's Edward III, who has 2,000 blood connections to Prince Charles. George Bush and Barbara Bush are of the same bloodline, the Pierce bloodline, which changed its name from Percy when it crossed the Atlantic. Percy today remains one of the most aristocratic families of Britain. I was amazed in the selection of 2000 to see that Burke's Peerage, a very prestigious genealogical publication in England, predicted that George W. Bush would be president. They said they could say this with certainty because although Al Gore was also related to the British royals, the Windsors, the Bush family was more closely related to the Windsors, and therefore he would get the presidency. And sure enough, after they stopped the recount in Florida, which we now know was won by Al Gore, the Supreme Court appointed George W. Bush as president, so Burke's Peerage prediction turned out to be true. So we find out that Gore and Bush, John Kerry, Dick Cheney, they're all related. They're all of the same bloodline. But I'm sure most people are going, well, at least you can say that Barack Hussein Obama is not part of that bloodline, but you'd be wrong. According to Lynn Cheney, the wife of Dick Cheney, as she researched her family's background, she found that Barack Obama is an eighth cousin to Dick Cheney. He is a descendant of Maureen Duval, a French Huguenot whose son married the granddaughter of a Richard Cheney who had arrived in Maryland in the late 1650s from England. Now, I realize that you can put forth the argument that if you go far enough back, we're all related to Methuselah, or we're all related to Adam, so everybody can be related to everybody else. But this only goes back to 1650, and the odds, what are the odds that of the same bloodline, you get the Gores, the John Kerrys, the Bushes, the Barack Obamas? These are the only ones that get to run and be president of the United States. The Chicago Sun-Times reported that both Obama and Cheney are blood relations to the Bush family, so they're all related. According to the paper, George W. Bush and Obama are 10th cousins once removed. They're linked through a 17th century Massachusetts couple, Sarah Sewall and Samuel Hinckley. Hinckley is a distant relative of George Herbert Walker Bush's close friend, John Warnock Hinckley, whose son, John Warnock Hinckley Jr., was the person who has been stated as the man who shot Ronald Reagan in 1981. Does that sound a little incestuous to you, that they're all involved and they're all related? Then that brings us to how come we don't know any of this stuff, and that's because the mass media in this country today has devolved down to about 6 major corporations. Here we see Time Warner, AOL, and Disney. You can see all of the books, newspapers, TV shows, magazines that these two corporations control, and then you've got Vivendi, Universal, Viacom, News Corporation, and Bertelsmann AG. Bertelsmann AG is a German company privately held by a family in Germany. During the war, Bertelsmann was the largest publisher of Nazi propaganda for the German Wehrmacht, for the military, and today it's the largest publisher in the English language. It controls most of the major publishers in the United States. This should be cause for concern, but it's not, because most people don't even know about it, because they control everything we see and hear. Today, according to studies by Project Censor, we find that the largest media companies are interconnected by common owners and interlocking board members. This is why that we are not getting any independent news. In fact, most of the TV networks now have pooled their resources, and they have one camera crew go and record something, and then each network, each station airs it as though it's their program, but it's all homogenized and it's all government guaranteed. Not only that, but here just recently, President Obama did away with the policies that you could not use tax money to disseminate government propaganda as news. Now the military, the CIA, the NSA can now use your tax money to propagandize you and tell you things that they want you to hear in the way that they want you to hear it. For example, in September the 12th, 2009, an estimated 2 million Americans marched on Washington, upset and angry over Obamacare and over the wars in Iraq and in Afghanistan. But you didn't get to hear about it, did you? Because nobody reported on it. None of the major media would actually report on it. The New York Times, Washington Post had a few small stories saying several 100,000. But you can see this picture, they filled Pennsylvania Avenue. And yet think back to when the Million Man March on Washington. That got news coverage for a week or more. But 2 million Americans march on Washington, it doesn't even get covered. Folks, that is very tight control over the news media. Various world leaders have attempted to alert us that there's something going on behind the scenes and that there's a force, a power somewhere. Woodrow Wilson put it this way. He said some of the biggest men in the United States are afraid of somebody. They're afraid of something. They know there is a power somewhere, so organized, so subtle, so watchful, so interlocked, so complete, so pervasive that they better not speak above their breath when they speak in condemnation of it. It's pretty strong. So who was he talking about? Well, we know that the ruling elite, the international banking elite, the royal families, they look with disdain on the public. One leader has been quoted as saying, we're just useless eaters. And a lot of this comes back to the idea that there's an overpopulation problem. The very same thing we saw in the Sumerian tablets with the ancient Anunnaki god Enlil, who says the human population getting out of control. We got to do something about this. All right. Well, today, Prince Philip of England has written that human population growth is probably the single most serious long-term threat to survival. If it isn't controlled voluntarily, it will be controlled involuntarily by an increase in disease, starvation, and war. And I ask you, isn't that about what we're seeing around the planet? Africa's being decimated by disease, wars cropping up all over the place, and there is starvation in third world countries. In fact, this to me is the greatest proof of conspiracy in the world today, and the biggest conspiracy in the world today, because we know that today there is off-the-shelf technology that can provide basic food, clothing, shelter, food, and basic medical attention to every single person on this planet. And yet, while you're sitting here listening to this video, in the back of your mind, you know there are literally millions of children starving to death on this planet right now. Why is that? I don't want that. You don't want that. Well, after you get past the facile explanations, politics and transportation and not enough money and blah, blah, blah. The real reason is because somewhere somebody wants it that way. If nobody wanted it that way, it wouldn't be that way. So that's the biggest conspiracy happening today. But let's take a look at Prince Philip's argument. Overpopulation. Is this true? I submit to you, no. Today, the average living space in Hong Kong, and of course there's very rich and very poor, but the average living space is 1,700 square feet. It's a pretty good sized apartment. It's a lot bigger apartment than I ever lived in as a young man. Okay, so based on an average living space of 1,700 square feet, the entire 7 billion population of the world could live comfortably enough in the state of Texas. Nobody else in the rest of the world. So wait a minute, we don't really have an overpopulation problem. We have a population density problem. Everybody's crammed into these giant cities, which is creating more and more of a problem because of pollution, trash, crime, congestion, etc. So what's the solution? Well, I say move out. Everybody spread out and go to other planets and colonize other worlds. But to Prince Philip and the ruling elite, as as they consider themselves on this planet, they have a different viewpoint. Prince Philip also has been quoted saying, in the event that I am reincarnated, I would like to return as a deadly virus in order to contribute something to solve overpopulation. They want to kill us. They want us dead. They want to reduce the world's population from 7 billion to maybe 500 million. And then they can live and have all the pretty countryside with just enough people around to mow the grass and cook the food and wash the clothes. Is this really the future we want? And if it's not what you want, then you better start rethinking what you're doing and how you're doing it. Because these people want us dead, and they're going about it in a methodical manner. We're getting bad vaccinations. We're getting bad air quality. We're getting chemtrails. They are spraying chemicals on us from the sky, and they've even admitted it in certain circumstances. Fluoridation of the water. You realize one of the ingredients of Prozac is sodium fluoride. The Nazis found that sodium fluoride over time can build up in the brain and calcify the brain and lead to zombification, basically. That's why they put it in the water of their concentration camps to keep the public pacified and non-resistant. And now they're putting it in 2/3 of the water supply of the United States. If your city or your town is putting fluoride in the water, you better start getting active, or your children are going to be thoughtless. Genetically modified organisms. We have no idea what this is going to do to everybody, and yet they're expanding this use all over the place, although there are now countries in the world who are banning GMO foods. But here, they just defeated a law that would simply wanted them to let you know when they are putting GMO foods in your food supply. Label it. Let us know that that's what we're getting. No, they don't have to do that now. It's incredible. So, this is no longer a political or a philosophical debate. This is self-defense. If you don't wise up and realize that there is a ruling clique in this world that wants you dead and wants you sick and wants you unthinking, then you're just going to end up in an Orwellian society and wonder how you got there. It's pretty incredible because what we have here is a would-be ruling elite that seems bent on killing the goose that lays the golden eggs, and that being the earth with its plentiful bounty of food and water and arable land and plenty of opportunity for anyone to live and be happy. But no, we have to face pollution and economic crisis and political crisis and wars because somebody wants it that way. And it's time that we look at the possibilities that this ruling elite are totally aware of the ancient astronauts idea. They know that there's been technology in the ancient past. They know there's been advanced civilizations. They don't laugh and snicker at all this. They know it's true. So I see this as leading to three possibilities. They're either trying to use modern technology to contact these ancient sky gods to gain their knowledge, to gain their power, or two, they are already in contact with these ET intelligences and are being guided or controlled by them, or three, they are the ancient sky gods, the Anunnaki, the serpent kings of legend. Since it's plain that they're trying to control the economy of the world and trying to destroy a good portion of the human race through disease, warfare, starvation, first we have to ask ourselves, are they just greedy corporatists? Do they not realize what they're doing? Are they simply inept and stupid? Are they merely corrupt malfeasance? Or is it time that we ask in all seriousness, are they even us? And as wild as that sounds, for our own self-protection, I think it's time that we start seriously considering that alternative.